Thank you very much for your attendance today. So the purpose of today's press conference is basically to give an end-of-term report from the DA Gauteng Caucus. As you know, that on the 29th of May, our term will expire, and then early in June, the new political term will start. The 7th legislature will start, and there'll be a whole new start, a whole new caucus, a whole new legislature, and hopefully a whole new government as well in Gauteng, if everything works out. And being a party that believes in accountability, we feel that it's important at this juncture to come back to the voters and to interested parties, civil society, the media, etc., and just report back about what we've done in the last 5 years. And it's important from an accountability point of view, which is one of our principles, obviously, but because, voters must know that they've got value for their vote. And this is our opportunity to report back about what some of the highlights of what we've done in the past 5 years. You'll see an astronomical number there of questions, for instance, that we asked in order to keep the government accountable and all these kind of things. But it is important for us to do this report back so that people know that, even if you're the official opposition, you can still make a difference. And you still make a difference in the portfolio committees that you attend. You influence policy there, you influence decisions, and a lot of these things actually happen behind the scenes, as the media is usually only interested in the house sittings when the politicians are at each other's throat, because that's a theater that everybody likes. But there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes that we do in order to keep government accountable and to keep and to represent the interest of voters in Gauteng specifically. So with those few words about the purpose of today, I'm going to hand over to our caucus leader, Msimanga, who's also our Premier candidate for this election, and he will go through our achievements and just highlight some of them for the past 5 years while we were serving here in the Gauteng legislature.
Well, thank you very much, Fred, and good morning to members of the media and members of Gauteng Residential. Indeed, a great pleasure to be with you this morning as we are again, beginning to account for what we have been doing in the last 5 years while we're in the legislature. I think we've come to the end of the provincial, the 6th term of the provincial legislature. And in 2 weeks, South Africans across the country will be heading to the polls. Our residents will once again be given the opportunity to vote for a government both at a provincial and at a national level that is capable of ensuring effective and proper delivery and governance that will indeed lead to proper service delivery. But for this to happen, a potential government must have a track record to show voters that they are capable of running a government. As the official opposition here in Gauteng, we have evidence of all the work that we have done over the last 5 years, and actually even beyond that, to help prove to our residents the work that we have been able to then do. Over the last 5 years, we have ensured that all our members attend portfolio committee meetings, which is very much important, that you don't have people that are just drawing salaries but are not there in committees, that are not there asking questions in the legislature, they are sitting, that they are there or going out there doing oversight. When officials are telling us this is what they've done, we have been able to then go out there and see for ourselves, what has been happening. This is actually very much a critical part of our job, where we have seen that, when officials tell you that things are happening, you're able to then go there firsthand. And in certain instances, we have been prevented from going to do our oversight. You'd remember I was prevented from going into the Tembisa hospital because of the corruption that has been taking place there. We have been able to then expose the corruption that is happening, around the Montrose housing projects that have been stalling for years. And Fred will talk to issues around the e-tolls. Krizan will talk to issues around safety and security and what we've been able to then do Jack will be able to then talk to you around a number of things that we have been able to then do, including things like Life Esidimeni as an example. We have actually asked over 8,000 questions, written and oral questions in the provincial legislature. This is key to analyze, the quota performance and annual reports that the departments do issue out. Now, you'd understand and appreciate that, officials will normally just tell you, give you figures. We have been asking questions that go deeper into the reports, that have been exposing some of the rot. I can give you a number of examples. We have had an opportunity to look at the TEPO 1 million as an example. What did TEPO 1 million really give us? And when we start asking questions, substantive questions in terms of what is being put out there, you've realized that the DA has actually not only been able to prevent the rot from continuing on a massive scale, but we were able to then stop some of these projects from going on. Through this mechanism, we've discovered the impact of load shedding as an example in the province. So in 2022, there was a total of 3,212 hours of load shedding that we experienced as Gauteng. And with that resulted in over 300,000 jobs and 104 or 103 million potential gross domestic product that has also been lost. Now, these are things that you wouldn't know otherwise have known had it not been the work that we have been doing in the legislature. And these are some of the things that we are very proud of to have been able to then bring, to the public and to bring to bear. One of the key successes that we have had this year is the official scrapping of the e-tolls, and I would allow Fred in a moment to be able to then have a chat about it, because I think there is a history, and this is something that the DA prides itself in that we are able to pick up issue and we're able to then drive it relentlessly, and we have proven time and time again that we are not just one-hit wonders where we say something and then we forget about it. We have been able to then push for the e-tolls, as Jack will also in a few minutes be able to then talk about how we have been able to then push the issue around the Life Esidimeni as well. And Krizan will talk about our fight against the issue of gangsterism and the rampant crime that is taking place. That has led to Panyaza trying to resolve this issue of safety and security, albeit going about it the wrong way, but that has led to them doing that. One of the other things that I really want to talk to is what we have been able to then also achieve in terms of our township, economic revitalization program, where we have actually been saying that not only do we need to have a township economy that is boosted by government, but we wanted to then start seeing programs that are able to then ensure that we are pushing the township economy in a way that is creating jobs. We're not 100% there yet, but it has led to a policy that has been passed by this legislature, and also a number of motions that we have been able to then put forward that will talk to the work that we have been able to then do. We have also pushed, quite a number of things relating to our municipalities, push for SIU reports to be put forward. You would remember, the Life Esidimeni, and Jack will talk to that. You would remember the PPE scandals that we have been dealing with since the 2019 pandemic, that took place. You would remember the provincial state capture that has been taking place. All these things are things that have been put to the fore because of the Democratic Alliance. You talk about the Department of Health and Department of Education that were found guilty of not only following or not following the due processes when it came to awarding of tenders of the PPE scandal. And this is something that we have exposed, and we continue to do that. We're sitting with the 500 million rand, Anglo-Ashanti scandal that even up to today has still not been answered. We're still waiting for, the recordings of the meeting where the decision to spend so much money was actually taking place, and that is something that we still want answers to. But these are things that we have been able to then bring to the fore. We have seen millions of rent that now is due to be paid to the Life Esidimeni victims, and that has been paid, and John will talk to that in a moment. But also we have seen a lot that we have exposed in terms of corruption that is happening, aided by the provincial government, that is happening at local municipalities. For instance, we are paying now hundreds of millions of overtime to people like the officials in Mfuleni, where we're not able to then pay money to deliver services, but the grants that they're getting from provincial government is actually then channeled to be paying salaries. These are things that we have been able to then expose. We have been able to then expose that they have actually then taken matters to court that they have now paid 3, 4, 10 times more, in court cases and settlement instead of dealing with these issues that the way that they should have dealt with. These are some of the things that the Democratic Alliance, have been successfully being able to then deal with and expose here in the provincial legislature in the last 5 years. With me is a document that we will want to then share with you that talks to each and every of the cases that we have been able to then deal with, expose, and the number of questions that we have been able to put forward, the number of motions that we successfully put in the legislature. And I think it is important that any political party that says it has done its job here in the legislature should be able to then produce a document such as this that is able to highlight the successes of what they have been able to then do, talk to the progress of what they have been able to then put forward, but more importantly, be able to then account. We are earning a salary here, and the salary that we have been earning as members of the legislature has been to keep the executive to account. This is our report that says this is what we have been able to then do to hold people to account. The amount of press statements that we have been able to release talking to cases of corruption, that is talking to maladministration that has been taking place, that is talking to us being able to then stop abuse of taxpayers. I think this is testimony to the work that the men and women that I have the privilege of leading for the last 5 years have actually then been able to then produce. And maybe just to get into a few of the specifics, I would allow Fred to then maybe talk about what they've been able to then do with the roads and transport, and then immediately after that I will ask Krizan to then come in as well to then have one or two specifically relating to safety and security. Jack, maybe if you then can come after Krizan to talk about what we have been able to then do with health, and then I will wrap up after that. Fred?
Good, thank you. My apologies for not introducing myself earlier. I'm Fred Nell, I'm the Chief Whip of the Caucus, but also the Shadow MEC for Roads and Transport, and Krizan Bosch is our Shadow MEC for Community Safety, and Jack Bloom, the elder statesman that everybody already knows, is our Shadow MEC for Health. So yes, we were faced with a number of challenges in the roads and transport portfolio, among them roads that were struggling to be finalized, tenders that were not awarded, a lot of issues around supply chain management that really put the road building program backwards and has an economic impact on the province as a whole. But I think the biggest and most famous issue that's come with us, I think, for 3 terms now, Jack, it's a while, I think since 2007 already actually, is the issue of e-tolls, and we have consistently internally here in Gauteng, we've in the legislature continued the pressure on the executive to scrap the e-tolls, especially after Premier Makura, the former Premier, actually made the promise that they were going to scrap it. We really kept them to their word. It took us about 4 years to get to that point, 5 years to get to that point, but we did. And the DA has been driving this issue from its inception, and we are also thankful for external partners like outshines, these who played a crucial role, because it's not something you can actually do on your own. You need partners to help you drive these issues, and Jack will also speak to the importance of having partners driving issues with you. But that is the kind of role that we played in the legislature by not giving up and continuously driving those issues. And I don't think there's any other political party in this province and in this country that can drive an issue as long as the DA has. We started with the state capture thing. We started with e-tolls. We've been fighting NHI, which is obviously a bit of a hot issue today as well. And we are glad that we finally got to the point where e-tolls were scrapped. We are still concerned. There are still some issues outstanding with regards to e-tolls. There's the issue about the loan that must repay the debt. The Gauteng government has committed itself to almost 20 billion rand towards e-tolls and maintenance of freeways in this deal that they struck with national government. And we need to know what the impact on Gauteng and service delivery in Gauteng is going to be, and that is still to be determined. And so we're not stepping off the e-toll issue. We're still continuing with it to make sure that it doesn't affect service delivery in other areas, as far as roads and transport is concerned specifically. I'll give over to Krizan maybe just to speak about her some of the work that they did in that portfolio, and in many of our portfolios, whether it's education, whether it's safety, whether it's health, whether it's roads, our members are quite out there on a regular basis to go and see for themselves. Helen Suzman always said, go see for yourself. And that's one of the mottos in this caucus, is that we don't just sit behind our desks and issue press releases. We actually go and see for ourselves and make sure what the executive says is the truth. And Krizan can maybe just speak about that very quickly.
Okay, good morning everyone. What we did in the community safety portfolio was to start a police watch campaign, what we call it, and we visited all 143 police stations in Gauteng to go and see for ourselves what the challenges are, and what is really required to be able to address crime in Gauteng specifically. In this process, we discovered a vast number of issues with regards to the infrastructure at police stations. A lot of police stations that was without electricity, like for instance the Rietgat police station, the Gauteng Caucus police station, just to name two of them. We also discovered that there is a lot of police stations that started off as satellite police stations, and they were in houses, and which was not conducive for what these police stations really needed and required to be able to address crime. And slowly through this police watch campaign and a list of questions that we asked, to the station commanders, we also discovered that there's about 36 police stations in Gauteng but doesn't have working telephone lines. The Telkom lines were stolen, and Telkom has moved over to fiber, but they have not installed fiber in all these areas, and because of that, the telephone lines are not working, and therefore they do not have a direct connection to the 10111 number. So if there's an emergency and it gets logged onto 10111, it normally needs to be fed through to the station commander to be able to take action. The Rietgat police station as well as the Gauteng Caucus police station have been without electricity for more than a year. During these oversight visits that we did, we realized that they did not even have generators at these stations to be able to assist them in the process. And we placed a lot of pressure on the police department and the minister, and we managed to get the minister to visit these police stations and to try and help to resolve the issue. Subsequent to that, Gauteng Caucus electricity has been restored, and then we also there was also measures put in place at the Rietgat police station with regards to generators to be able to assist them in this process. There was also a spike, an increase in gangsterism and violent crimes, especially in our coloured communities like Eldorado Park, Riverlea, Westbury, just to name a few of them. And what the Democratic Alliance did was we drafted a motion to establish a committee of inquiry to do a full investigation of these violent crimes and gangsterism in Gauteng and how to address it. This committee of inquiry was approved. This motion was approved within the committee. It was established, and the first phase of it has already been done, where the police stations, the affected police stations like Langlaagte, Sophia Town, Eldorado Park, were all summoned to the committee to appear in front of the committee and to show us the challenges that they are facing. There's also some police stations like Boschkop, for instance, that didn't have a station commander, a permanent station commander, and through our issue driving and taking these things up with the police commissioner, the provincial police commissioner, and the department, we managed to ensure that places like Weerdabrug as well as Boschkop get a permanent station commander installed in those police stations. So this is just some of the things, just to give you some highlights. And then one of the main issues that is not yet completed that we are still busy with is declaring the Gauteng Traffic Police Service as an essential service that can be working for 24 hours and to assist specifically with regards to the spiking on the roads, which continues to increase over time. It's like a syndicate that moves around and leads to fatal crimes.
All right. I think, yeah, you begin to then have an appreciation of what is it that we have been able to then do. I think, Jack, following that, maybe it's your turn to then say what has been happening in the health department.
What's been happening, but let me just come back to Life Esidimeni, because I think Kudana Msimanga might have got away with it. It wasn't for questions of the legislature, because literally the bodies would have been buried. That's the evidence. And I asked the question which exposed the fact that there were people who had died, and it went on from there, and we kept up the pressure, and she resigned. And it continued. It's amazing how the negative after effects of Esidimeni continue, because we still don't treat mental health patients as well as we should. And the big story was that in this term of office, they ended up paying more than 400 million rand to more than 400 victims of Life Esidimeni, and that took a lot of pressure, a lot of investigations, and that's an achievement. Still can't make up for the lives that were lost, but that's over 400 million rand that they were forced to pay out, and we will continue to press for prosecutions of those who were implicated. But I mean, one of the big things for this term of office was COVID. Came out of the blue, surprised us all. And the provincial government reacted to it. One of the things is that money was made available. Emergency money was made available. 2 billion rand. A lot of money was made there to deal with this unprecedented situation. And you would think, let's spend it properly, lives at stake, do what we can. And you know what? Just about all of it was looted. It was just stolen. I mean, it was the PPE corruption, which was about 200 to 300 million rand. The biggest scandal of all was the Anglo-Shanti Hospital. This was supposedly donated by Anglo-Shanti. And colleagues here remember, I raised this first in the legislature, because we're not just here about asking questions. We also warn ahead, as I warned about Life Esidimeni, I warned about this hospital. I said, why are you spending money on a hospital you don't even own? So eventually, R500 million spent for absolutely nothing. Hundreds of million rand spent on wards that were built that were never used or not completed at various hospitals. Kopanang Hospital is empty wards. They spent 100 million rand in it. There's empty wards at Baragwanath Hospital, at Jubilee, at George Macquarie. It's just absolutely scandalous. But questions were able to elicit this and get them to stop it, at least stop wasting more money. But the other big thing, of course, which also, politics is full of surprises, the massive corruption with Tembisa Hospital. Unbelievable. And I rely on whistleblowers a lot. I think a lot of the questions that I ask was people telling me there's things that are going wrong. And, here was a whistleblower who put a life on the line. She was trying to stop the corruption at Tembisa Hospital, and she was assassinated. And if you go back to the time, it was exposed by journalists, not by the administration. The Gauteng Health Department did nothing for weeks. They didn't reply to all the allegations. They did nothing. I kept asking questions. Legislature, finally they had to give a response. Finally they had to suspend the key people. But I still think there's political protection. But all these fishy contracts, we need to find out the entire web. So I asked a whole series of questions about contracts at Tembisa Hospital, and we found Cyril Ramaphosa's nephew by marriage was implicated. There's an ANC Treasurer General for the Koreleni region. I mean, it's just incredible what's been uncovered. And I think that's the strength of oversight and legislature. You can ask the questions, you can warn the provincial government whether they take the warning or not. That's their problem, but they were warned about a lot of this problem. But I have to say that the extent of the corruption, exposing it, trying to get justice for it, that's an ongoing job. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jack. I think you begin to then understand the work that we have been able to then do. One of the things that, maybe just to highlight quickly as well, this government wanted to spend 84 million rand in terms of the demolition of the HMPJ stadium. We were able to then investigate and find out that they didn't even have to spend anything more than 19 million rand. We were able to then save taxpayers millions of rands, to be able to then demolish and to restart the project in HMPJ in Mamelodi. We were able to then push for the refurbishment of a number of libraries, across our provinces, or across our province. You can talk about the Wipatong Library, the Everton North Library, the Rastafari libraries, amongst those that we have been pushing for work to be done. We have been able to then expose the amount of money and corruption that has been taking place, with the assisting of artists, that a lot of money had been pumped into the artist relief fund, which never really actually even got to the artist. These are some of the things that we have been able to then expose. In terms of local government, we have exposed how R500 billion has actually been used to pay overtimes of people that were not actually then delivering services, amongst other things. We've been able to then see and expose about the missing generators in Mfuleni, as an example. We have been able to then deal and expose 187 million rand that was wasted in terms of labor disputes that I spoke to before. In social development, and we want to thank our members who have been dealing tirelessly with the issues of money that has been taken away from NGOs that are operating in that particular space. And Jack speaks about money that the lives that have been put in danger with Life Esidimeni. And we have seen something similar happening in social development, where money is actually then being taken away from NGOs and actually then being channeled towards the Panyaza's project. And that is something that we have exposed and continue to expose. We continue to work with those NGOs to make sure that they ultimately get what they are supposed to be getting. We have been able to then expose corruption for the mentally ill patient in the Keros home in Swane. We've been able to then assist the Ezekiel House, Tearport with their registration statuses, among so many others that we have been able to then assist in terms of the social development. With education, we have exposed that in Gauteng we still have, even though Panyaza had said that we don't have asbestos schools anymore, we have been able to then expose that there are still schools that are still using asbestos. We were in Hammanskraal to expose that there are kids that are still using the bucket system when they go to toilets, here in Gauteng. And we have actually put pressure to make sure that the online registration is actually open a whole lot earlier. You would remember the chaos that it has actually ensued in a number of years previously, since the introduction of the system. This year it has been a bit better, because we pushed the department to ensure that it is able to then open up a whole lot earlier than opening up late. I can talk about the housing corruption that we have been able to then expose time and time again when it relates to housing project and hostel renewal projects. You're talking about the Madala hostels. You're talking about quite a number of hostels across the province that we have been exposing. That there hasn't been really any kind of meaningful work that has been done that has changed the face of or the condition of those hostels. These are things that the Democratic Alliance, through this caucus, have been able to then expose. But as I said to members of the media, this is a document that we are proud to present to you and actually highlight what we have been able to then do, the number of questions per portfolio, the motions that we have been able to then table, those that have been able to then succeed, those that the ANC has actually shied away from responding and debating. All of that is in here. And this is something that we are saying as a Democratic Alliance. This is evidence to show that not only are we serious about being held accountable, but we also hold those that are in control of the purse of this province to account. And we will continue up to the last day to hold people to account. But this will also put us in great strides when we are now going and preparing ourselves to take over government here in Gauteng. And we're looking forward to that, where we are going to be ascending post the 29th, where we will then begin to then ensure that some of the things that have been highlighted here are things that we can then begin to then fix now, and we'll be able to then give the people of Gauteng a better life going forward. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. You'll also see that at the second last page, basically, we talk a little bit about our Ready to Govern project as well. This is a project that we've been running for over 2 years in our caucus in order to prepare ourselves to take over government after the 29th of May, where we've gone into in-depth analysis of every department and set our own strategic objectives of what we would like to achieve in government. So we we are fairly prepared insofar as taking over government is concerned. There are obviously, as Solly always says, there are the stuff that we don't know, and we will deal with those as they do come up in government when we take over. So, but any questions?
No questions.
Difficult ones are also welcome.
I think it's very comprehensive.
Thank you so much. You're welcome to engage individually here with Solly and any of us, so that we'll end the formal part of our conference right now. Thank you so much for attending, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.